Hi guys, welcome to another maths lesson with A+ Tutoring. I'm Danuki, and today we're going to be looking at 5 Grade 5 NAPLAN-style word problems. If you haven't already, please check out the word problem lesson video linked in the description. Essentially, that was a lesson where I went through a step-by-step process for breaking down word problems. If you have already watched that lesson, please keep watching. Okay, let's go through these questions. Question number 6. As always, pause the video here and take a second to read through the question. Okay, now that you've had a chance to read through the question, let's go through it together. A carton contains 250 mils of fruit juice, mils or milliliters. How many cartons are needed to fill a jug that holds 2.5 liters? Okay, couple of moving parts there. Each of these cartons, so imagine this little image that I've got here, this is a carton. Each of these cartons have 250 mils of fruit juice, right? And what are they asking us to fill? A jug. So let's draw ourselves a jug. Something like doesn't have to be too detailed, but there you go, something like that. That's a jug. Each jug holds 2.5 liters, right? What are they asking us to figure out? How many of these cartons do we need to fill this jug, right? Okay. The first thing I want you to notice there is that we're dealing with different units. So we're dealing with mils and liters. To make our life easier, we need to make sure that we're dealing with the same units, right? So either change everything into milliliters or change everything into liters. Ensure that you have the same units. I prefer it. It depends on the question too, but I think when you're first learning, just change everything to milliliters because it means you don't have to deal with decimals as much. So remind yourselves, how many milliliters are there in a liter? 1 liter has 1,000 milliliters. So if we've got 2.5 liters, that's 2.5 liters, right? So 2 liters would have 2,000 milliliters. Half a liter is half of 1,000, which is 500 milliliters. So it's 2,500 milliliters, right? So essentially, that's saying that it's 2.5 liters is the same as 2,500 milliliters. Okay. Now that we've changed both of them, so originally the carton has 250 mils, so we don't really need to change that. That's already in milliliters, right? So now we need to ask ourselves, how many 250 milliliter cartons needed to fill 2,500 mils, right? And these numbers look very similar, right? So how do we get to 2,500? We've got an extra zero at the end, right? So that just means we're multiplying by 10, right? To go from 250 to 2,500, we're just multiplying by a 10. This actually is our answer then, because we've already gone, okay, so we need 10 of these cartons to fill 2.5 liter jug. So essentially by kind of writing down our thought process, we've indirectly solved the question, which is 10. We need 10 of these little cartons to fill a jug that's 2.5 liters. in size. Cool. Let's move to the next question. Okay, question number 7. Pause the video here and take a second to read through the question. Okay, now that you've had a chance to read through it, let's go through it together. A stadium has 14 sections. Each section has 250 seats. How many seats are there in total? Again, we're dealing with some big numbers there, right? When we think about it, a stadium with 14 sections, each of those sections has 250 seats. So we're dealing with like a massive stadium here, right? It's almost like, if this is not cut to 14 pieces, but let's say this was like one section. Just to kind of visualize it, if this was one section, each of these sections can fit 250 people because they've got 250 seats, yeah? And they're asking us, how many seats are there in total? Again, total. Remember, when we're doing total, it's usually multiplication or addition, right? Because we're bringing two or more groups together. And if it's big numbers, it's a lot easier to do a multiplication than try and do an addition, right? So another way to think, or another way to word this question would be 14 groups of 250, right? Because we've got 14 sections. Each of those sections have 250 seats. So my recommendation is to use multiplication here. It's a lot easier than trying to write 250 down 14 times. So you can just go 250 times 14. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 5 is 20. Put the 2 here. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. Okay, now we have to do the multiplication here with this number. So 1 times 0 is 0. Remember, you have to put your number down in this column. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. Now we just need to do the addition. I'm just going to remove these lines because I don't want you to confuse that for ones. There we go. Just do the addition now. 0, 0, 5, 3. So 3,500 is your answer. So answer is 3,500 seats. Too easy. Next question. Okay, question number 8. As always, take a second to read through the question first. Okay, let's go through the question together. David has 48 stamps in his collection. He wants to divide them equally into 6 albums. How many stamps will be in each album? Okay. One tip that I want my students to kind of remember is, don't be influenced by the previous question. Sometimes if you've been doing multiplication, you might not read the question carefully and just go, oh, 48 times 6. That isn't what the question's asking us to do. So just make sure you read through the question carefully and ensure that you're not influenced by the calculations that you did in the previous question. Okay, now let's go through this. David has got 48 stamps in his collection. So this is the total, right? We've been told that the collection has 48 stamps. So off the bat, you should go, okay, total 48 stamps. Some really important words here are divide. So they've kind of made it easier with the way they've worded this question, because they've kind of given you the operation that you need straight off the bat. And then the other really important word is equally, right? So David's trying to divide the 48 stamps he's got into 6 different albums. and we need to make sure each of the albums get the same amount of stamps. So, he can't have one album that's got like 10 stamps and another album that's got like 2, right? Each of his 6 albums, need to have an equal number of stamps. Now, what we're being asked to figure out is how many stamps each of these albums are going to get after it's been divided, right? So, especially since you've been given this really important word here, instantly you should go, oh, we're doing division. We're dividing the total into 6 groups, right? Which is 48 divided by 6. And if you go through 6 times tables, that's 8, right? So the answer is 8. Let's say you're struggling a bit, you're kind of not so sure about how to approach this question. You can also do a little visual diagram for yourself. So you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 albums. You know you've got 48 stamps. All you need to do is just divide. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. Okay, you can probably hear how I'm out of breath at the moment, but it shows that this method takes a lot longer. And 48, even though it's not a massive number, it's still a pretty big number when you're trying to draw lines, and sometimes you might make mistakes. You might draw an extra line here. So yeah, either way you get the same answer. Each album has 8, but it's a lot better to be comfortable with your kind of multiplication facts and really memorize them and learn them, because it just makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to draw out boxes and go dividing each number very carefully one by one, right? So your answer is 8 stamps. Okay, let's move to the next question. Question number 9. Again, pause the video here and take a second to read through the question. Okay, now that you've read through the question, let's go through it together. There are 264 crayons in a box. Each class has 22 students. If each student gets 44 crayons, how many classes are the crayons enough for? Okay, this question's a bit more complex. There are like 2 moving parts here. So we've been told multiple things. We've been told that in a single box, like a big box, you've got 264 crayons, right? We've also been told that in a classroom, like in each classroom, you've got 22 students. So completely different things at the moment, right? In the first sentence, we're being told about crayons in a box. In the second sentence, we're being told about the number of students in a class. So keep that in mind. We don't see a relationship just yet. Okay, now the next sentence, this is the key sentence. If each student gets 4 crayons, right? So essentially, we're kind of dividing these crayons among a set number of students. We haven't been told how many students we've got. We've only been told the number of students in each class, right? We haven't been told the total. If each student gets 4 crayons, how many classes are the crayons enough for? We're not being asked about how many students. We're not being asked about how many crayons. We're being asked about how many classes, right? So let's do this in 2 parts. Let's work with the information that we've got, right? The first piece of information that we can work with is this, right? This fact that each student gets 4 crayons. So how many crayons have we got all together? We've got 264 crayons, right? And each student. So 4 crayons per student. Those are the facts that we've been told. Another way to put this would be to bring this over here. So we know that we're getting 4 crayons per student. We know that we've got 264 crayons. When we look at it, we can actually figure out how many students we've got, right? We need to find the relationship between these two and balance it out. So the first one is, how do we go from 4 to 264 using either multiplication or division, right? We don't use addition and subtraction when we're looking at these relationships, only multiplication or division. So to go from 4 to 264, we're going from smaller to larger. So it has to be multiplication, right? But it's a big number and we can't necessarily, like, it's not in our tables, we can't necessarily do it in our heads. So even though we're doing multiplication here, we actually have to do a little division on the side. So 264 divided by 4. So it's 4 times 6 goes 24, and you can use short division here. If I just make some space, like that, right? 4 times 6 is 24. 24 taken away from 26 gives us 2 left over. And then we bring the 2 there, which means it's 66, right? So we're going times 66, right? And just to make this a bit clearer, I'm just going to write 1 student, right? Per student, 1 student, same thing. So if we've multiplied this side by 66, we need to multiply this side by 66, which means we've got 66 students. Is this our answer? No. What are we being asked to figure out? How many classes are the crayons enough for? So, first stage, this is the first stage of the working out, right? We've figured out that the crayons are enough for 66 students, right? Now we need to figure out the number of classes. So, we've been told we've got 22 students per class, in one class or per class. What do we know so far? We know that we've got 66 students. So this is what we're trying to figure out, yeah? So again, the relationship. This one should be kind of easy to do in your head, you know. Straight away you can see that that's just times 3. And we have to do that to this side as well, which means we've got 3 classes, which is R and so, right? Let me use a different color so that it's a bit clearer. Right, we've got the classes, which is our answer. So from this question, what I want you to realize is that some questions you'll need to do like 2 stages. You won't be able to get straight to the answer from looking at one fact or one piece of detail that's in the question, right? You need to look at a few different things and kind of think it through and understand how these moving parts come together or fit together. Right, let's move on to the last question. Question number 10. Again, pause the video and have a read through the question. Also, when I tell everyone to pause the video, it's also a chance for you to even try the question out by yourself before you see me going through the question, right? Okay, let's go through it. So, a basket contains 36 apples and 24 bananas. If half of the bananas are eaten, how many pieces of fruit are left in the basket, right? So To make things a bit easier, I've actually included a very pretty picture of a fruit basket here. I know it's got other fruits in there, but essentially just to visualize, let's say that we've got 36 apples. This basket's a bit too small for that, and 24 bananas, right? We're being told that half of the bananas have been eaten. What happens when we're thinking of half being taken out of this, right? Ask yourself, if half is left, if half's been taken away, means we've got half left over, right? So what's half of 24? It's 12. Has anyone eaten the apples? Doesn't look like it. We haven't been told, right? So this means the apples are still there. And we're being asked how many pieces of fruit are left over. Again, that's a total thing, look at the number of items, fruit, whatever's left over. 36 plus 12. If you can do it in your head, that would just be 48 pieces of fruit is our answer. The reason why you could do this in your head is 36 plus 12. 36 is actually a number that comes up in your 12 times tables. 12 times 3, 12 times 4 is 48. So this might be an easier fact to kind of do in your head. Otherwise, you can just do it on the side like this, yeah? Which is too easy. You can even check your answer by doing a simple addition like that if you're not sure at any point. That's pretty much it. Cool.
I hope this helped you tackle word problems like a pro. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more lessons. See you in the next video.